Okay,
I
Mima.
wanted to do that at the cemetery because you can see things with your eyes there.
Okay.
Never mind.
Whatever, but you were telling me that this city was multicultural.
It is 24th century old town.
Yeah.
It was built as a military center of Philip II, father of Alexander the Great, for the northern tribes of Macedonians.
Yeah.
In this region, these tribes were the Lynx. Never mind. The important thing is that in the 2nd century BC, the last Macedonian king was conquered by the Romans, and very fast after that, one very important road was built by the Romans. And that road was connected Rome to what is today Istanbul or Constantinople or Byzance, and was going toward Israel and Egypt and so on. The name of that road is Via Ignatia. The midpoint from Rome to Constantinople is here in Bitola.
That is, I didn't know that. This is exactly the midpoint.
The midpoint.
Wow.
And for that reason, that was a rest point always. But also, it is very important to know that geographically, we are in a very self-sustainable valley. There is water, there were swamps, there is coal, there is a lot of possibilities for agriculture. It's climately good, mild, so people were staying on their roads from west to east here. But also the distances from, for example, Athens to Bitola and Bitola to Belgrade and Danube are exactly the same. Almost in the 10 kilometers difference.
Amazing.
So again, people that were traveling from north to south, this was a point where they had a rest during the winters. Unfortunately, during the Crusades, 2 of the Crusades passed through the town. And in winter time, the Crusades were here, especially the 4th Crusade. They were devastating everything.
They devastated the town.
Of course. Being Macedonian or partially descendant of the idea of Alexander and its Hellenism, it's something that is important to think about that, because people don't want to have again such an emperor as Alexander was. It's quite different than all the other big conquerors. He was trying to put the nations together and not to put not his nation above all others. He used the Hellenism as international language and international culture to connect people.
Right.
But and that's why everybody was trying to get that heritage in their kingdoms, later kingdoms, but never to let the crazy Macedonian way of thinking to prevail on the world. And I have a lot of examples through centuries that are proving that. Okay, so from the 2nd century BC until this partition of the Western and the Eastern Christian Church, we are under the Roman Empire. Then we are under the Byzantine Empire.
Byzantine Empire, right.
But we are never close to borders.
No, because you're in the middle.
Yes.
Exactly.
There were no borders. There were always big empires. And being in the middle, we were always on the trade roads. It is most probable that the Jewish people came here in the late 1st century after they were expelled from
Rome.
from Rome.
Actually, from Israel.
So
because
from
by the
Israel, in
Romans,
fact,
all the way
yes,
from Israel.
from Adrian and so on and so on.
Adrian, that's right.
Even the first apostles are coming to Macedonia.
Paul preached in all these areas. So,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Romagnots are present here for 2,000 years.
Right.
There is our archaeology site, Heraclea Linkestis. We have exposed only 20-25% of the town. And there is no a synagogue that is exposed here. But in Stobi,
No
which
synagogue.
is with the same from the same historical period, Stobi is one of the 3 oldest synagogues in the world.
And
It's
where
from the
is Stobi from here?
100 kilometers exactly, in Macedonia.
In Macedonia.
These were the two. These were few big towns in the Roman period here in Macedonia.
Okay, but in Bitola they didn't find an ancient synagogue.
In 2003, there was a delegation of researchers from Jerusalem University. I have the study, and they made their investigation, and I have the report saying that there is absolutely sure that if we continue with our exposure of the site, we will find the synagogue, because there is no chance that you can have so important synagogue in Stobi and not to have it in Bitola, that were in that time two equal towns with their importance. So it's a question of time, and I do believe that. Now,
so
centuries.
You're talking about ancient synagogues, meaning from what time?
It is the end of the 2nd century.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Because the oldest one is Masada in the Dead Sea.
Yes.
So this would be like right after that. This is very
Yes.
Wow.
So if you can, I don't know, do you plan to go to Stobi? It's
And
quite
I didn't
close.
plan, but I can make
But
a
that
plan.
is something that we had 2 years ago with my friend Shelley. In your world, it is Rachel Levi-Drumer. In my world, she's Shelley.
Shelley, yes.
She brought a group of her friends. That was a VIP tour. They were all very educated and wise people. And one of them prepared his research and gave us the speech at the synagogue of Stobi. And then I understood how important it is, because they are the first and rare places where Jews that couldn't pray to their temple were praying in the world.
That's right.
So that's the very beginning.
And you're talking 2nd century, so
And
that is...
by the end of the 3rd century, there is already, when the Christianity is becoming an official religion, there are the first signs of anti-Semitism.
Of course.
Because by the end of the 3rd century, they were expelled and the synagogue was closed.
Look at that. That was at the end of the 3rd century, so it's before...
It is exactly
before
when...
Constantine became an emperor even.
No, Constantine has... it was 335 when Constantine accepted the Christianity. So somewhere in this period...
So beginning of the 4th century.
Beginning of the 4th... I don't know all the details, but you will study them, because I know that you will be interested
this is very
in that.
important. 325, so you, from that moment you begin to see the signs of anti-Semitism and expulsion out of the synagogue in Stobi.
Exactly. So, but the Jews, the Romagnots, remained here.
Right.
And now we are jumping some...
You call them
a lot of-
Romagnots, though they are Jews coming from Israel, but because
with
they were
the
under
Romans.
the Roman Empire.
Yes,
right.
these are the Romagnots.
Yeah.
And okay, now we are jumping many centuries,
All the way.
and we are coming to the year of 1497.
97, after the expulsion from Spain.
In 1497, according to the documents, a population of 800 Jews is already here in Bitola from Spain.
They were expelled,
Because they came to Istanbul, and the Sultan didn't give them the right to go everywhere.
Right.
So they were paying to settle themselves in different places, and they were using places where there were Jews before.
Right.
They were in Thessaloniki. They were in Monastir. Then Monastir.
Monastir.
Because
yes.
the names of Bitola has changed its name several times.
My parents used to call it Monastir.
Yes, of course, because 5 centuries it was Monastir. Okay, they're coming here and they're buying the only piece of land that they're allowed to buy as land. It's this cemetery. So according to the documents, it is, as it's known in this moment, it is the oldest Jewish Sephardic cemetery
In the world.
in the Balkans. No, in the Balkans. I don't know about the world.
No, besides, of course, Spain itself, but outside of Spain.
On the Balkans, it is the oldest one because it is dated only 5 years after Isabel expelled them.
It probably is the oldest one, yeah.
And that community is living in Bitola, in Monastir, in fact. Now I'm going to go back a century. From that age of 1495, 6, 7 until 1943. And on 11th of March of 1943, 3,347, there are different numbers. I don't agree with the correct number, but it is around here. Well, in one morning, they were collected, brought to the railway station, deported to Skopje. There was a huge center in the tobacco factory, and the entire population of what Macedonia was then, and we were under the Bulgarian occupation.
Yeah.
It was 9,792 people.
How many? 9,000?
Almost
10,000.
9,000. They were packed in these wagons of for cattle,
Right.
sent to Treblinka into three
Envoys. 3 envoys.
and directly from the rail station in Treblinka
To the death.
to the chambers of death. Even so, the worst part is that I think the second or the third group, they came late in the evening, so they put them in the chambers, but they didn't put the gas as they usually do. They put a bit of that, so they were suffering for more than 12 hours.
Oh my God.
And when you're going to read that, you cannot forget it.
Wow.
It is, you cannot forget things like that.
No.
It is not something that,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm not talking about the Holocaust. The vision of our project is the messages, the learned messages of living together for 5 centuries. And these messages are very important because they are giving an answer to many of the questions that we are fighting today as world crisis. And all our world crises have a moment of conflict of religions. So I do believe that if we are learning from positive historical evidence, then we might learn how to live and how to be together. I'm going to explain why. There are no evidences that during 5 centuries there was anti-Semitism here.
You mean from 1497 until 1943?
There was no anti-Semitism.
There's no evidence of that.
No.
It's amazing.
The first evidences of anti-Semitism are coming in 1938, 39.
Hitler rises to power in Germany.
Yes, Exactly. So I don't believe that Hitler could do that if there was an environment in entire Europe.
Exactly.
And I have evidences of that by the witnessing of the generations that are still living. So in these last years before the occupation and during the occupation, 41, 42, and then 43 happened what happened, even the Kingdom of Yugoslavia was encouraging anti-Semitism. And it was told to me as a personal testimony of one of our local historians who had a best friend who was Jewish, Moshe. In his, they were going to school together. They were kids, like I'm going to tell you exactly, like 7 years old. So these are the first grades of going to school. And in the classroom, they were the best friends. But when they were getting out, they were separating into Jews and not Jews,
right,
and fight so they can show to the public that they are against each other's. And when I told him, come on, I have so many other testimonies about years before, but he said that was years before this was happening. So anti-Semitism is not something that is coming from nothing.
Of course not.
And
It's
if you don't have if you don't have open eyes for the evil that is growing between people, because people are cultivated the evil. Evil is not something in the air, it's something that we are cultivating. Then when it will come, you will be surprised. And I don't want that.
Of course not.
I really don't want that.
No.
Okay. From
One
my
of the
10th to my 20 and something, my uncles, my grandfather were talking to me about the way of living in this town. They were all multilingual. They were speaking Ladino, they were speaking French, German, Turkish, Albanian, Gypsy, Roma language,
right,
all the Slavic languages. So most of the traders that were in this market
the
will make,
languages.
they were speaking 6, 7, 8 to 9 languages.
Wow. And Mima, just for the record, you were raised in a family that was technically Greek Orthodox, right? Christian Greek Orthodox.
That's another story.
Yeah, but okay.
No.
No.
No. You have to dig a bit deeper in the story of the Orthodox churches.
Yes. And I would like to dig deeper because I believe there is something very interesting
we shall talk about that in the afternoon because I want to keep with the Jewish part of the story.
Okay.
So, having his store of candies, I'm going to show you the store today, of my grandfather and my grandfather. He was, as everybody that was growing up with their parents having stores in the market, they were going to school in the morning, but they were working in the afternoon in the stores. So they were learning how to behave and how to live. And if you are selling candies and you want to be good with all your customers, you have to know all their traditional holidays. What do they serve for the holidays? Prepare that, sell it, or make a gift to the other religion, because that's the only way how you can keep the connection. And that way of showing hospitality, respecting others so you will be respected, is what I'm trying to promote today as the cosmopolitanism of Bitola. Because cosmopolitanism is a way of hospitality. Mm-hmm. It's not I'm welcoming you in my home. It's I am welcoming you as you are in my home. And that was what was developed here because we had here a huge Jewish community. It started with 800 people, and in the beginning of the 20th century, every fourth was a Jew.
Wow.
It was around 11,000 Jews here. And now God is taking his unbelievable ways to help the spirit of monastirlis. Monastirlis are the Sephards or Jews from Bitola, from monastery, that left the town between the last 2 decades of the 19th century and the 30s, 40s years of the 20th century.
That's my family, by the way.
It starts to be very intensive in 1867. There was a huge fire, an inferno, on the left coast of Drago River, that is in the middle of the town. And on that side, there were the most of the Jewish neighborhoods. No ghettos. Ghetto is the word that we learned from. They were neighborhoods, as they were Arbanescu, Vlach's neighborhoods. Every neighborhood has its own name, and the Jewish neighborhoods also have their own names.
What was the name?
I will tell you one by one. 4 neighborhoods that are recorded for the moment. And 3,000 families were
left without a house.
Without home. That's a huge number.
That's big, yeah.
And they are asking for help from Thessaloniki, from Sarajevo, from Belgrade, from other communities that are in the empire. No help. There is no social insurance. Everybody was in a similar situation. So the rabbis are writing a letter to the strong community of London that was... the leader of that community was the Count Maurice Montefiore. And he says, yes, we will help. So they're organizing a huge help that should come here before winter comes.
Yeah.
Our winters are 10, 15 and 12 below zero. And you can have, now not in this moment, but we had 1 meter and more snow. So it is very important. In that period, 6 big world countries have their official consulates in Bitola, because that was a military center, on the biggest military center on the Balkans of the Ottoman Empire.
The Ottoman Empire.
And the British consul is the one who is monitoring the how this help was
going to be distributed because it's coming from London.
And there were some rules. The first one was, we are not giving money for your religious needs. So forget your 6 synagogues, forget your religious schools. We need for homes, we need for food. We're going to provide for you means to do business with Western countries, and we will provide education for your children.
Right.
And that's the moment when those that remained here start to become strong, because they were opened toward the world. The Ottoman Empire meant some kind of preservation in hibernation for centuries. They were very religious. Bitola is known in the religious Jewish world as the place of many responses that were used during in the entire empire. I'm talking Ottoman Empire. So if you ask rabbis that are working with the history of the responses in the Ottoman, you will find monastery for sure.
So we are the ones that did the most debates, you mean?
They were coming here because it was calm to develop the answers. They were coming from different places.
So there were rabbis here and people that were very learned in Jewish studies.
Yes, and their names, I will give you the materials that are well known even today with the responses. most of them were not originating, they were just staying here.
Yeah.
They were coming from Thessalonica, but they were coming also from the countries where Ashkenazi were living, so it is not just a Romaniot Sephardic community.
Oh, so now it's Ashkenazis and Sephardic.
They are also coming in periods during these 5 centuries to find shelter here.
Interesting.
It was a shelter place, always.
Really?
And that was the reason why people tried to understand each other's. The idea of understanding what the Eastern Christianity and the Western Christianity are fighting for is not uncommon here. We are on the line.
Yeah. Like a mediation.
Always.
Yeah. Like a mediation.
It's our region is the region that is bordering the east with the west, and then you have 5 centuries of Islam.
Exactly. Yeah, I was.
And it was an Islamic cultural center, and the Ottoman Empire had that very wise philosophy that all the nations that belong to the book should govern themselves in terms that are not civil. So marriages and disputes between the members of the communities were solved by rabbis and by priests, not by the Ottoman Empire.
Right.
They were respecting that. And that kept us to be what we are, regardless if we were Jews or we were Christians. So that was passed by my grandfather.
Right.
And I understood that the biggest tragedy of my town happened in 1912 and 1913, when the last part of the Ottoman Empire of the Balkan was splitted between the 3 neighboring kingdoms: the kingdom of Serbia, of Bulgaria, and of Greece. And that's the first time in 23 centuries that Bitola is becoming a border city, and the natural direct route from the west to the east is blocked by 2 borders: the borders with Greece and the border with Albania. Now we are in a corner.
The border with Greece, and it wasn't very comfortable. We actually had to get stuck.
I will tell you this. During 1912 and 13, these are the Balkan Wars of partition of Macedonia, and they didn't come by chance. As anti-Semitism is not coming by chance.
Prepared, yes.
Many of the well-established families from this town, regardless if they were Jew, or they were Christians, or they were Muslims, left the town. When I'm saying many, you should understand that the leaders of the community left.
Yeah, my grandfather was one of them, Matias Albala, and he left towards Temuco, and he was the first
And
president.
do you know where is the
community.
Albala house? I'm going to show you your home.
You will?
Yes, it's across the street in front of
I
you.
was saying yesterday to my husband, saying, I want to know where they lived.
I will show you.
Oh,
and
Mima,
I
you
will
make my day.
I will introduce you to the owner of the home, and he has the original document of selling the home of Albala to his family.
Oh my gosh, you're making me cry right now. Wow, that's a surprise for me, and that's a kiss from heaven. Thank you.
Okay,
I'm expecting.
so I'm telling you
That's awesome. Wow.
things that were kept in memories of many people,
Right.
and we are the last chance to keep them alive, because the next generation, the generation of my children, will not follow if we don't infect them.
And absolutely right.
We are the last bridge,
Yeah.
and that is the big reason why I'm trying very hard to revive that spirit. Because as long as we had as communities. Arbanescu, Vlachs, Armenians, Jews, Turks, Slavic population of 3 nations, Greek influence, Serbian influence, all the kind of influences. This city was blossoming. It was not easy. It was a fight. It was competition. But they had a rules of respect and coexistence that was making the hard moments, transforming them into their strength. That's the difference.
Yeah, yeah. Now, but you said something where we diverted a little bit. When you said the fire, and you have Montefiore from London sending the money, the British consulate monitoring those monies, you said they were not going to go for the religious needs or activities, but rather for the basic needs of the community, but they were going to provide the education. And you said that's the time when the Jewish community became strong. Explain that a little bit.
No, that's the time when many of the Jewish community get out of their neighborhoods
And
connected with other traders and becoming strong. They start trading. They start
they
developing.
went out of their own little
That's one
world?
of your. That's one of your families. It's in the very center of the town, not closed in the.
But open up to the rest
Yes.
of the nations, and they began to
Exactly.
trade with them. And
Exactly. They started before that,
Right.
during the entire 19th century, but then they brought to this growing society of multicultural society of Monastir the markets of Liverpool, of Britain. So when I was a child, we were taught that Bitola was a strong Balkan trade center during the 19th century that was trading with Vienna, with Budapest, with Bucharest, with Cairo, and then they were mentioning always Liverpool. I could never understand why Britain. It was so far away.
yeah,
And then I understand that
because of the Jews.
yes.
Because
So
the
they
monies
were
came from
working.
Montefiore to the
They
Jewish
were
community.
working together with the Vlachs. Now the Vlachs and the Jews have some similarities in their history. Vlachs are a mixture, a nation that never developed their own country. They are living all over the Balkans, and they are a mixture of the Topic people and the Roman soldiers that was settled here for centuries.
And they're called the blacks.
And they're called Vlachs. And they are like the Jews, traders. And they are like them, people, they converted themselves 99% into Christianity. But they are people that are open on all the Balkans, because if you have Vlachs here and you have Vlachs there, you can be positive that will marry to each other, that will trade, that will make the connections. The Jews at the Ottoman Empire and the Balkans were doing the same. So, what were they doing? One of the strengths of this region in that time was the economy with livestock. But they were not selling meat. They were selling leather and wool. So, by communicating with Great Britain, with Liverpool, they'd start producing tweed.
Ah, okay.
And they had a great quality of this product.
Of course.
On the other side, the traditional wool products, textiles, were very interesting for trading with the Arab part. So they were trading with
Turks,
Cairo,
the Ottomans.
and from Egypt they were bringing cotton.
Cotton.
So now you have a very good way to communicate.
Here to Cairo, in a
Yes,
way.
exactly.
Wow.
One other of the very strong traditions in our economy that is deeply connected with the Jewish community is the production of leather products. The tradition of leather products is connected with the fact that we had in the vilayet of Monastir more than 2 million sheep, and the best manufacturers of leather were the Jews that brought their knowledge from Spain.
That's right, of course.
So now you do understand
Yeah. And they took that to Chile because it's interesting because my parents, of course my grandparents, they were also in the textile industry from both sides.
Good.
So they brought it from here to Temuco, Chile.
Okay. And the community of Tembuco, Chile is a mirror of their monastery. Yes.
We've been there, and I did a whole TV program there. You haven't seen it, but I will tell you where
haven't
to
seen
get
it.
it.
I don't have
The old synagogue
I
is
don't
there.
have the
Facebook
capacity
Live. Ah.
to consume what you all are bringing to me.
Yeah,
It's
so much, huh?
it's amazing.
It's amazing. You're talking about all of the monasterly community and their descendants, right?
Not just monasteries. Whoever came, it was special persons.
The ones that have come here.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. I can explain to you how many amazing people came. Some of them are Sephardim, some of them are scholars, some of them are...
They're coming to see the project.
They're coming. Sometimes simply because they heard that the gates of the cemeteries are open.
Are open, yes, and they can go
It's,
to the tombs.
I cannot explain to you.
You are caught up in a whirlwind of happening.
Yes, yes. And I'm learning by different stories that people are bringing to me, personal experiences. I'm connecting, linking different knowledges that I have. So I have so many. Now I understand a big part of my own family, a big part of the dilemmas, a big part of our own history in the history books. I'm reading things completely different.
Of course.
And I love to read. Different perspectives are helping. I'm out of the box completely.
I can see that since I've met you today.
Completely out of the box. And that's the gift that this project is brought to me.
Yes. And you are a gift to the project because I know also from Dan and everybody, they all talking about how important you are for the project. You're meant to be. You see, God
I know.
has his calling.
Yes, I know that.
That's it.
I know that. Contrary to men, most of us as women are people of instinct. And many times we are doing things before we are understanding what we're doing.
That's very true.
So it was August 2015. Rahel Shelley came for 2 days, as she knows, to fly from Israel to Bitola. We had an ice cream, and she said, you know what? We will have a new ambassador to Macedonia. I met him. I find him interesting. He has a problem to connect with people. Would you like to be an honorable consul to Israel? No, I said, I'm in the business world. I would like to make some business relations. By the way, I'm international trade law counselor.
Okay.
Which
matches you, but it still matches you very well.
Yes. So she said, okay, I'm going to give him immediately the contact with you. She typed the message, and I got a phone call from Dan Orian in February that year, or end of January next year.
Right.
He became the ambassador in October, November, and after 2 months,
2015, right?
Yes, it's 14. So now we are in 2015 February, and he said, "I would like to meet you." I said, "Okay, where are you going to be?" "I'm going to be in there and there." I said, "But I'm in Bitola. Can you come?" "Of course, I will come." So I traveled to Skopje with my husband. We sat in a restaurant like this, and he said, it's 20 years of diplomatic relations, Macedonia to Israel. I'm stepping in this year with no connections of the relevant people in the country, and Rachel told me that you might help. I laughed. I said, for the politicians, you will meet them by yourself, and I would be honored to help you with this connections with ordinary people, with I don't know, people, simple.
People.
What are you interested in? Culture, education, special institutions, so on. I said, gladly. But I said, you will have to pay for that. And he said, how much? And I said, well, it's not about how much. And instead of saying I need the help for business relations, I said, I need you to see the Jewish cemetery in Bitola. And I will not say surprised, but it came first. And he said, okay. And I said, Shelley brought you to me. And we are friends. We are keeping our friendship for 30 years. Our mothers were grown up together.
Okay.
So that was inherited friendship. But we developed our own relations as we were growing, getting married, children, and so on. And one of the things she was demanding all the time, and I couldn't help on that, was the condition of the Jewish cemetery. We were both aware of the importance of that cultural and interreligious bondage we had, because we are practicing that all our lives. She is religious. I am a communist child that has a religious background, so I'm a crazy mixture because of.
No, but you're a believer, and that's it.
I'm a deep believer.
That's it.
And it was not about religious between us.
No.
It was about a spirit that was dying, and we could see that, and the negligence. So he said, okay, I'm coming to Bitola. When? I said on 11th of March, which is in a month and something.
Which is exactly the anniversary of the deportation
Yes,
to Treblinka.
and we are doing that every year for all these 75 years. And he came, and he was charmed. So the duo became trio, and we start considering who might we involve. And I involved my friends from an NGO we have developed. The name of the NGO is ARHAM, and that's an acronym of Architecture and Ambience. In fact, we are a small NGO for sustainable urban development.
Okay.
And led by women, led by professionals in the field of technicians and architects. And all of us from all families with similar memories of the past where the Jewish community was part of this community.
Wow.
So it was
Very moving.
easy.
Amazing.
It was easy to involve them.
Of course.
And then we involved the municipality, then we made the MOU, but I will continue with that, the cemetery, because we will see the pictures.
Yeah, we definitely will see that cemetery there, and we will walk among those ancient tombstones, all the way from 1497. Now, one question then. The cemetery still is in stages of restoration. It's still not fully restored. We are going to talk, and I'm especially also speaking right now, as I am taping this, because we want to see what else needs to be done as well.
A lot of
So
it.
you will show us, okay?
I will.
Amen. And we're going to have some of our people listen to this and the importance of cooperating. So
Well,
that
I
they can-
hope that I was not too mixed with. I was speaking.
No, I loved it because it was led by the Holy Spirit. You could see that the Lord was leading what we needed to talk, and that's the most important, because at the end of the day, this is not the work of man. We men respond. The work, though, comes from much higher than us. And so, thank you so much, Mima. First of all, I want to, as a Sephardi Jew, thank you that you are involved in it, and I'm getting excited about
But you are
getting
Bala.
to know you. I'm an
You're
Albala
monasterily.
country. I'm monasterian. I've always been.
And if you come here,
I'm both.
I have something so you should be very proud. Very proud
Of my family.
of your families.
Thank you.
You did your families did influence Macedonia history, and I'm going to talk to you about that.
Okay, and I'm gonna tape you because I want to hear it
Okay,
again.
okay.
Thank
That's
you
good.
very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
God bless you. Thank you so much.
Let's go.
Thank you
Let's
for
see
this beautiful
what
cherries.
time is it?